He began in music because he wanted to meet girls as a very, very, very young man. Then it was jazz, then it was New Christy Minstrels, then it was First Edition, then it was Kenny Rogers Soul, then it was a Gambler, which sold some 12 million, and then 20 million in Best Hits. 3 Grammy Awards, 18 American Music Awards, 9 platinum albums, and enough gold records to stock Fort Knox. And you asked, what could Kenny Rogers do next? Well, you start a television series, you could open a franchise restaurant, and you could release a brand new record of love songs. Kenny Rogers' next album scheduled for an October release is called Timepiece, a collection of musical standards from the 30s and 40s and 50s, and I'm pleased to have him here. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
We share some friends that I've never met you. I'm really happy to do that.
It's funny when you run into someone and all of a sudden you start talking names of people from your past, a whole different reference comes to
It does, exactly. I ran into John Y. Brown, former governor, married to Phyllis George, former governor of Kentucky somewhere, and I said to him, what are you doing now in the business world? And he said, Kenny Rogers Roasters, right? Is that what Kenny Rogers Roasters? Right. Which is a chicken franchise.
Right.
How many stores do you have now?
We have 170 operating, and we have, by this time next year, we'll have 500. And we have 1,200 franchises sold in a 5-year rollout. So, I mean, in the next 5 years, there'll be 1,200.
Yeah,
and we're in 7 foreign countries.
I once said to Jimmy Dean, what's it like to be in the sausage business? He said it's like having a gold record every day.
Every day. That's so true.
Is that what the chicken business is like?
John came to me with this idea about 4 years ago, and he said, I really think this is a home run. I think this could be bigger than Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I said, John, the thought of being Colonel Sanders just doesn't fascinate me. And so we started rolling out the numbers. He said, if this happens and if this happens, I said, okay, bring me the chicken soup. Here we go.
Here we go.
I can do a lot of things for that. But I mean, the good news is, there's a theory that you want to be careful of oversaturation, particularly when you're dealing with your use of your name. But I think there's also a theory that there's no such thing as oversaturation of quality. If you do good things with good people, you can do as many things.
So you're making good chicken, you're telling me.
I think the product speaks for itself. My name, the idea is, of course, is to give the product an identity, and that when people come in, that the whole goal then is for the food to bring them back, and it does, believe me.
Now, what's the theory? Just help me understand this without being falsely modest. What's the theory in terms of Kenny Rogers? Having your name there brings them into the restaurant?
Well, more importantly, there is an extended value to advertising dollars. If you call something red chicken,
right,
and you advertise it, you spend $100,000 in advertising, X number of people remember that. If you call it Kenny Rogers Roasters Chicken, 10 times, 20 times, whatever that ratio is, will remember it, but considerably more. And it also, I think, stops a lot of people from coming in as competitors who might come in and try to take the idea from you, because it gives us a quantum leap ahead in the form of publicity and promotion.
Now, do you do anything except collect the check?
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, actually, I try to go.
Colonel Sanders?
Not yet, but I'm working there. We don't have that many stores yet. No, but I do. I go to the openings of stores. If I'm in the neighborhood, I try to. Or if I'm anywhere near a store, I try to stop in, without telling them that I'm coming, because I think that's the most fun, is to just walk in and sit down, and people will be drinking. They have these little cups that have my pictures on them, and you'll see them looking at me and looking at the cup, and it's kind of fun for me to do that.
You still perform a lot. You do tours constantly around the world.
Yeah.
Did I read somewhere that you're one of the top 5 grossing entertainers? Somewhere, something like that? I used to be one in the top 5. I'm probably still in the top 20. Yeah. Mainly from concerts and the sale of albums? Or?
And but I work a lot. I have to do 800 nights a year to do what Garth Brooks does in 10 days now, but I can still get there. No, but it's about, if you enjoy what you're doing. I saw an interesting, as a young kid on television, he was a football player. And you pick up bits and pieces of information that you learn to live by. And this kid was saying that his mom had told him, she said, son, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's kind of how I feel. I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing, so while I'm out there a lot of days, I literally and truthfully enjoy what I'm doing, so why I might as well be there somewhere else.
And you also have this philosophy that what goes around comes around, so to speak. That while you were red hot in late 70s, early 80s with The Gambler, which did, you told me, 12 million, and then the greatest hits did 20 million, something like that.
Give or take.
Give or take 100 million. But you think, in a sense, that music has a certain cycle to it.
Well, if you look back historically, every 10 years country music becomes the dominant force in pop music, and the theory being, of course, that pop music becomes so abstract that the average person can no longer relate to it. I mean, when you get to heavy metal and rap music, the average person really doesn't relate to that. While they may love the beat and the tempo, it's not a music they can sing, number one, and number two, they don't really understand the message. So I think country music kind of slips in there, and someone does something very simple, and they get away with it, becomes a big hit, and then it becomes very chic to wear a cowboy hat and put your boots on and your belt back in, and then that has its run and something else comes in and takes over. But all music is constantly in a state of change, in a state of recycling, or it wouldn't have any growth. And I think that's the beauty of music, is that it's constantly growing.
I want to talk about this a little bit, just because it gives some insight in terms of how smart you are about business. This is called Timepiece. I asked you, what's this album, because I just saw it a few minutes ago, and you said, think of Unforgettable.
Yeah.
You know,
Natalie Cole album.
Natalie Cole did with her father. She sort of superimposed, I guess, him. I mean, tell me what the business idea here is.
Well, one of the things is country music has become labeled new country. They've established what I assume is a marketing vehicle where if they play only the new kids in country music, that they have a tremendous amount of energy at radio level. And it works very well. I mean, it's become a very successful marketing tool for country music. The problem is it doesn't leave people who've been around for 15 or 20 years or 10 or 15 years a place to go. You can't.
Kenny Rogers
no
can't
longer
get radio play.
Can't get radio play. I mean, it's not a joke. And it's one of the things, unfortunately, you live and die by things you say when you're hot. So when I was really hot, I made the foolish statement that those who can compete will compete, and those who can't bitch about it. So I have a choice. I can either bitch about it or I can try to compete. So I just chose to back up and come in at a different door, because I am really a country singer who's had a lot of other musical influences. And I must say that to me, one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in my life is that when I was 19, I met a guy named Bobby Doyle who started a little trio and asked me to come play. And he single-handedly introduced me to the era of the 30s and 40s and the era of the old standards. I would have otherwise totally missed that era.
I want to take a look also at something else you do. Gambler 5. That airs on October 2nd and 4th at 9 p.m. on CBS. They do pretty well in the ratings, do they?
Done very well. And I'm trying to figure out who sat down and said, let's do this on the 2nd and the 4th. I mean, not the 2nd and the 3rd, the 2nd and the 4th. Let's let a night go between so people can really rest from all of the tension in this show.
They're going to be so excited by this.
They need a day off.
They need a day of rest.
Family.